Hello, everybody. I'm Reverend Sue Frederick. Thank you for joining us for this mystical conversation. This is the kind of discussion where we lose ourselves in the wonders of divine mysteries, share dreams from the other side, intuitive nudgings, and soul mission yearnings. This is about lifting up from our human viewpoint and reviewing life from the soul, where we get that bigger understanding of this universe. And today I am beyond thrilled to be talking to someone who I met a few years ago, excuse me, being on her podcast, and I've followed her ever since. Her name is Simran. She's the author of many, many books, including a trilogy of books on the number seven, talking about mysticism and all kinds of spiritual things. And you all know I'm a numerologist, so I love that. And she has a magazine called 1111. And she woke up in her own spiritual journey with an 11 experience, 1111 awakening. She also produces a weekly series of meditations and contemplations. Her radio show is incredible. It's called let me see, where did I put your radio show? Well, the magazine is 1111mag.com. Your website, Simran's website is iamsimran.com. And do you want to tell me how to tell the readers how to get to your radio show?
Yes, it's 1111
There we
talkradio.com.
go. So you are going to be so loved by my listeners, Simran. You really embody everything that we talk about on this show. Would you like to start with your spontaneous 1111 awakening years ago?
Sure. Well, first, I'm honored and delighted to be with you. I so appreciate all of the work you do, and especially your latest Angel series is fabulous. So thank you for having me on. I am a pretty ordinary person that has had some extraordinary experiences. And like most individuals out there, I experienced my own degree of dysfunction and struggle and suffering and trying to figure out what was going on with life. And in that very challenging period, I didn't know what to do. And I went to my prayer room. And when I did, I asked for a sign. Now, this pain had been going on for quite a while. I had tried to conform, tried to become what I needed to be for everybody, tried to figure out life from that very human place of fixing things. And so when I
You were
asked
in
for a
your
sign,
30s, right, when this happened? In your
I was
30s?
in my 30s,
Perfect.
yes.
Yeah.
And so when I asked for a sign, it was kind of a frustrated, last resort kind of thing. And the next thing I knew, all of a sudden, I started seeing these 1111s everywhere. And it was really interesting because I had no clue what they meant. I just knew that they were popping up, and it got to the point where they were popping up 25 to 30 times a week, and they were showing up everywhere. So, license plates, mailboxes, store receipts, billboards, across every car of a 20-car train one time at a train stop, a bulldozer outside my property that was clearing some trees had 1111 across the side. So it was really bizarre, and I wasn't sure what was going on, but it was enough times to say, okay, something has happened. Someone is communicating with me, but I have no idea what they mean. And so I started to just notice when they would show up. And I was either always in a place of thinking I wanted to do something else, like a dream or a desire, but not believing in myself that I could, or I was in a place of fear and feeling stagnant. And so I noticed these were showing up at that time, and I thought, well, maybe it's trying to get me to make a decision, or maybe it's telling me to move forward rather than stay stuck, or maybe it's telling me that I can believe in my dream. And so I just kept watching when the sign showed up. And then about 4 weeks later, after getting really frustrated at seeing these signs, I got angry enough to say, make them stop or tell me what they mean.
Oh, I love
And
that.
the download that I got was that the 1111 is a gateway. It's a pre-encoded trigger inside of all of us. Each one represents a level of mastery that we are here to achieve, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. It was to illustrate that we are all individual ones, but we are the one. Collectively, we make up the one.
Oh my
And
God, let me just pause for a moment here because this is so profound. And the fact that you came to this without any background in numerology, you still don't consider yourself a numerologist. And here's 1111 showing up everywhere, which all my people know is a sacred master soul number. But the even more amazing part is that you intuited that it's all about the one as well. And the one, you are a Pisces one soul path in this lifetime. So your intuition is so off the charts, your connection to spirit. As a Pisces one, you're here to be a visionary who leads us to a new understanding of the divine. Carry on with your story.
I think the beautiful thing about that is I really had no clue what I was doing. And I think sometimes our own innocence plus a dose of curiosity and wonder is the best thing we can give ourselves.
Gosh, yes,
Because we're in
absolutely.
this place where there is this landscape of up and down, dark and light, all these different contrasts that we are here to encounter. And at that time, I was just trying to survive, as many of us do. But it set me on a personal growth path that I could never have imagined because I wasn't really seeking out personal growth people or spiritual people. That just wasn't where my head was. But I was seeing signs. And I thought, well, if the universe can speak to me through numbers, how many other ways is it talking to me? And I started to realize that the signs didn't just start, they had always been there. They are always around us. But the way to get our attention is to first start with one sign that shows up repeatedly. It's kind of like a constant tap on the shoulder to get us to realize, okay, I'm not alone here. I've got support. Now, what do I do with that support? And that just started a conversation looking at the entire world as the conversation and saying, is the universe speaking to me through everything? And that
Oh.
became the basis of my work.
That is the ultimate spiritual truth that we're not alone, that the universe is always trying to help us, speaking to us in so many ways, and that our human mind makes us focus on the mundane. But the minute we're in pain, because you were in a crisis of, purpose of why am I here and what's the purpose of all this? And so 1111 dropped in. It's like, pay attention, Simran, we're here.
But I think so many of us get to that place of, why are we here and what's the purpose of life and what
Yeah,
is it all for? And it is that moment of pause that has to take place.
yeah.
But those signs led me to start looking at everything in my world that would appear to me as a sign. And so if I went to the grocery store and I encountered an angry grocery store clerk, I stopped and I said, where is that in me?
Oh, I love that question. Repeat that question again.
It's where is that in me? And I came up with 5 questions. They're in my very first book of Conversations with the Universe. And the first one is, where is that in me? The second one is, what is that here to show me about me? The third one is, what is that here to shift about me? And the fourth one is, what is that inspiring me to now do that's different than I've been before?
I love this so very much. I mean, I think maybe I've told you when I was on your show that when my husband Paul died and I was 29 and I was seeking meaning and purpose, his primary teaching to me through spirit was it's all in divine order. Nothing that happens on earth is random. You drop vitamins on the floor. That is not something to get frustrated about. That means you need to really examine which vitamins you're taking and which ones are the best for you. He was teaching me that constantly after he crossed over. And that's pretty much what you're saying too, that everything here is to teach us, to help us grow and expand.
It's so true. And when I started doing that, that let me tap into the anger that I didn't even know was there. When I would see a beautiful butterfly or an innocent baby, I would say, where is that in me? And then all of a sudden, in this very ugly place in my life, it was like, okay, where's the beauty in me? Where's the transformation in me? Where's the innocence in me? If I encountered someone that was really narcissistic, I even said, where is that in me? Because ultimately, we're all one.
Mhm.
And so, unless I'm willing to embrace the other as myself and really see from the other's shoes, really recognize that I wouldn't manifest this outside of me if some part of me didn't have a resonance to bring that into my field, then I'm not really doing my part of the humanitarian service that I came to do. And so I just followed
Beautiful.
that path of looking at everything in that way, whether it was a person, a place, a thing, the weather, a job loss, a money issue, a relationship, it all works.
But here's the amazing thing too. When you had that awakening, you launched a magazine like the next month, right?
Well, what occurred was I was in a really low state. I was very sad. I was grieving. And so when that meaning of 1111 came in, what also came in were flashes of a magazine and flashes of the radio show. I also saw the books that I would eventually write. And I heard the words inside my own voice and inside myself, do this now, you will heal and others will heal. And prior to that, I had been a workaholic. I worked all the time. And so, in its infinite wisdom, the universe also knew what to give me. It knew it needed to give me a project
A
because
job. You
I've been
needed a
launched
job.
forward into that. And I just set about doing it, which once again, I didn't know what I was doing. But that too is also the point, Sue. It's not that we're supposed to know. We're here to grow into all these gifts. We're here to discover all these different areas that we can find ourselves in. This idea that, oh, I'm not enough, or I don't have the skills, or I don't have the talents, or I need to go wait until I do this. All of that is just our own ego fodder to avoid and make excuses. We can do it just by virtue of stepping one foot in front of the other.
And you write in your many teachings that we are imprisoned by our own belief systems. Beautiful. Would you expand on that?
Yes, yes. I found out after several years of doing all of my 1111 work, I had encountered another really difficult experience, and it was a very oppressive experience. It was one of injustice, it was one of loss and grief and pain. And I thought, gosh, all the work I've done, and I've still encountered something to this degree. There must be something left. And what I came to was this outer oppression and imbalance and injustice was simply my own inner oppression. And so it led me down a path of really looking at where do I oppress myself with my thoughts, with my own story, with my emotions? Where am I imbalanced or injustice or serving two sides of a scale by saying, oh, this is who I am over here, but saying, no, I want to be of spirit and I want to be of the light. We can't serve two masters. We have to align ourselves so that ego serves soul rather than soul serving ego.
And you
And so
have
when
to talk now about how we are divided with politics, and that's a reflection of our inner belief system. Explain that. It's so perfect.
Yes, yes. All of this turmoil around politics and the split is really how we're divided inside. We're divided in mind. Our hearts are not in the places that we really want to be. We're being codependent by putting it somewhere else. And so when we see this polarization, what we're really seeing is our own inner polarization of how we're swinging from one place to the other rather than finding our center, rather than finding our balance and having the straight, grounded path. And we can see that in lots of places. We can look at wars that are taking place on the earth. And that's really only a reflection of where am I internally at war with myself. This world is this holographic, beautiful thing that's been given to us for our own self-realization. And once we start seeing it that way, we can do the inner work that will actually start to collectively change that outer screen.
I love that so much because I've always believed that our leaders and the things happening in politics is an expression of where our collective consciousness is, right? And so all of this conflict is kind of showing that our collective is warring about what is real, what is important, who am I? And so when you look at it this way, how do we then help? Or is it our job to help?
That's what my latest trilogy, the Seven series, is about. It's living the seven blessings of human experience, being the seven illusions that derail personal power, purpose, and peace, and knowing the seven human expressions of grace. And they depict these three parts of us. So living is the identity that we put out in the world. Being is our shadow, animal, monster nature that is completely unconscious to us. And knowing is our humanity. But what is humanity? We think humanity is something out there, but our humanity is in here. And so if life and the world is really serving us by everything that shows up, then we can look at an event that takes place or politics or a war and we can go, oh my gosh, that makes me so angry or that makes me so sad. I'm going to go be an activist and go take care of it. But that's actually avoidance. That's avoidance of our feelings and what's going on inside. And that's reactive. As beautiful as that activism might be, it's reactive because we're taking all that energy and going back out and simply fueling the very situation that we're saying we don't like. So
I
if we were to
I
pause,
think I've never heard a more profound understanding of what is happening in our world today. Carry on.
thank you, Sue. If we were to pause instead and say, let me feel the heartbreak that I'm feeling right now. Let me feel the anger that I want to spew instead. Let me find where that is in me so that I can neutralize it and so that I can dissolve it. Then we are actually lessening some of that energy that's out there. And from that place, if you want to somehow lovingly be an activist, you can. It's going to have a different effect. But if you're taking your rage or your heartbreak and using that as your fuel for activism, you're just seeding your very things that you're putting out into the world with that heartbreak and rage. So we have to be really careful about how we serve.
You are so much my soul sister because I have come to this understanding, even though back in the 60s I marched against the Vietnam War. I was all about the protests and everything. And now at this point, I realized, no, the angels are saying we have to go be angels walking on earth and send healing and love. And, those three angel books poured through me, and that's what they say too. And I feel like as we wake up to the fact that it's not about fighting and discussing our ideas and trying to find agreement intellectually, it's about loving, compassion, and sending angelic energy out. You and I are saying the same thing in different words, and we both came to it in our own different journeys. That is just so beautiful to me.
And what is compassion, Sue? Compassion means that you've gotten to a place where you understand, where you've integrated a deep understanding of where that person might be coming from. I mean, in the end, if we took the faces off of everybody, it's just energy. It's energy that's out there that's moving.
Yeah.
And that energy is trying to have us see our energy so that it can all balance. So if we can not judge, if we can step out of that place of separation, because that just fuels more separation, that's how we'll move to greater oneness, is saying, I see you. I know the divine spark is in you. I know that we are mirrors to one another. Help me to find that mirror in myself so that I can help you not have to wear that mask anymore.
So beautiful. You should be facilitating groups, around the world. I'll reach out to the Capitol about that. So, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about all these grieving people that I work with in my client business, and especially grieving moms, who have a child in spirit. And of course, our heart is with those people because their grief is real. It's part of being human on earth. And yet at the same time, these moms are awakening to know that their child is in spirit and is trying to give them messages and tell them that they're okay and that life goes on. And yet, many of these moms tell me, oh, I can't, I want a sign. I want this very specific sign from my son, and I'm not seeing it. It's not coming to me. And what you're saying, and please really talk about this, is that it's an effortless feeling that lets us see these signs. Would you explain?
It is an effortless feeling, and yet there is a part that we have to play in terms of where we are holding our presence or awareness. And I I feel for all of those grieving parents. That's the worst thing anyone could ever go through. And yet we are here to bridge two experiences. One is the humanity experience, and one is the divinity experience. And so it's about bringing these two places together to say, can you be with yourself to feel everything that you need to feel? That those tears are washing your eyes so that you may see through that divine lens. They are washing your body and your heart of all that residue that you've been carrying for so long. They're sacred tears, they're sacred waters of the divine coming upon you. It's all right to feel them. And as you get to that place where you've felt them, can you use that flood of tears around you as a geyser back up to the divine, to raise yourself into the joy of the memories and the experiences and the everlasting eternity that you both are, your child and yourself, and ask for the sign from that place. Because when you're aligned back with the divine, it doesn't mean you're negating your grief. It doesn't mean you're pushing away your sadness. It means that you're allowing for your humanity. And I truly believe our humanity is the doorway to our divinity.
I agree 100%. Yeah.
Yes. And then you'll ask for a sign. And if we have time, I'd love to share a story
Yes,
about
please.
that. So I lost my father last year. And I ended up moving, and the home that I moved to didn't have any landscaping around it. And he was a botanist. He loved his plants. He probably loved his plants more than he loved his kids. And so I decided one day, not really having much of a green thumb, decided one day I was going to landscape the entire space around the house. And I'm going through and I'm doing everything, and I'm really proud of myself because I've gone and picked all these plants and the mulch and the dirt, and I've made my holes. And I get around to the last side, and I'm talking to my dad during this whole experience. And I get towards the final part of it, and I said, Dad, I don't know if you see all this and can hear it right now, or if you're off having a great time somewhere, but if you can, would you send me a bird? But not just any bird. I want you to send a bright yellow bird. Now, I want to tell you, when I moved to this new home, for some reason, there were no birds. I had been in this home for 6 months, not a single bird. And I love birds. And I
Mhm.
had bird feeders out, but never a chirp, never a bird. That next morning, I was laying in bed and I start hearing a song. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's a bird. I go downstairs onto my porch, and there is a bright yellow bird sitting on top of the bird feeders, just singing its little heart out.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
said, hey, Dad. And so that little bird shows up every single morning and sings to me. And it's just like having this conversation with my dad.
I
Well, fast
adore
forward,
that. I adore that
isn't
story.
that fabulous?
Yes.
Fast forward to this year. I lost my mom a couple of months ago. And my dad had sent the message that I'm waiting for your mom. I'm waiting for your mom. And so after she passed, I was talking to him and I said, I hope that you're with mom. Would you bring mom? Could you bring two yellow birds so that I could make sure that you and mom found each other and y'all are together having a good time? That next morning, he showed up, and all of a sudden a second yellow bird came, and they sat together on the bird feeder for probably 10 minutes. And it was like the message that had come. And so these messages can come. We simply need to ask
Yeah.
and be
And be
open-hearted.
open.
If you're in too much grief, that's a different type of heart opening,
Yeah.
but it's one that blocks you from seeing the joy or having the resonance to see some of the signs.
And
So it's
that's,
about merging.
I talk about this, and I know you do too, that when we're in our deepest, darkest pain, we've somehow got to get to the gratitude or the joy just a little bit to lift our frequency so
Yes.
that, like you called it, this gush to the divine that opens us up, just maybe a moment of, well, I'm grateful that I had a loving father, or I'm grateful that my father taught me a little about plants. And suddenly, oh, our frequency is up and we're more aware of signs. Do you believe that?
I do. I do. We do have to align to the place, not for signs to appear, but for us to be aware of
Yes.
signs appearing.
Yes. So do you feel, because I love everything you're saying, and I love that you say the question is, where is that in me? So if someone is grieving, um, they're just going, oh, I just don't believe, I can't get a sign, and they're feeling very cynical. What would be the question that they ask themselves that would help them break out of that cynicism so they can experience this divine universe?
I went through a really, really dark period, and it's really the basis for those books that have the sevens, because it was a 7 year long period. You could say a 7 year long dark night of the soul. And it was the most intense experience of loss that I could have ever experienced, probably similar to what these parents, grieving parents, are experiencing. And in that moment, knowing how devoted I've been to the light, I thought, if I've gotten to this point, there must be something here for me. And so I said, I'm going to be devoted to the darkness. I'm going to let myself be immersive in this experience because obviously it's here to teach me something. And what I did discover is that grief is this portal. It is this almost wormhole or back doorway to connect us in a deeper way and to show us true light. That part of self-realization that we are here to attain is also that detachment, that dispassion, that ability to wash away everything and truly see life as it really is.
Mhm.
In that particular situation, I cried for months, Sue. The tears would not stop. And I realized that I was crying all my tears. And that was grief I needed to cry. And then that paused for a period. And then a few months later, all the tears started again. And again, it was for several months. And I didn't understand why, but it just wouldn't stop. And then I woke up one morning and I realized, oh, these are not my tears. These are my mother's tears and my grandmother's tears. They went through this too. All their generations, all the way back that I could find, had all gone through the same experience of loss that I had. And I thought they'd never felt it, so it's backed up. So let me cry the tears. Not that I was anyone's savior, but that I was a channel for energy. Will I be willing to let that energy come through me? And then the tears stopped. And then again, a few months later, it happened again. And I thought, well, what is this? And as I dug deeper and intuited, I was crying tears for the collective because right now we have so many people unwilling to feel their grief. And this goes all the way back to the time of Mother Mary, that there's grief all the way back. So if I can alleviate a little bit of that grief, and so for those individuals that are in their grief where it just doesn't feel like it can stop, some of it might be yours, some of it might be your generation, some of it might be the world.
Oh,
You know,
let me just pause here. This is so important because what you're saying is that when we wake up in the morning and we're deeply sad and we can't figure out why, or we're deeply angry and we can't figure out why, that it can be coming to us from the collective because we are saying, I'm trying to be a vehicle of light here. And the universe is holding, not the universe, but the collective consciousness is holding so much pain right now that if that pain comes through us, then we bless it, we feel it, we move through it. This really helps me understand some things. I mean, I tell all my girlfriends, I cry constantly, and there's hardly ever a reason for it. I am just this portal of tears, and my husband and my kids are funny about it and they laugh about it, but they witnessed it. And one of the things I came to about it was if I'm going to cry, if I'm going to feel sad, I'll do that for the divine. I'll express it without resistance. And I think in a way that's what you're saying, what you're teaching.
Yes, very much so, because our mind, our ego wants to make up, oh, I've got to go figure out what this is attached to, or I've got to make up a story about it. And sometimes it just is because we are all intuitive beings. We're all sponges. I don't know where you are, if you've had the level of rain that we've had here, but it's been like
Those are
weeks
tears, yes.
of rain. And I was on my porch a couple of weeks ago and the rain had just wouldn't stop. And I looked up and I thought, wow, the heavens are crying. There's so
Yes.
much grief and sadness and fear everywhere that even the heavens are having to release these tears right now.
I have said the same thing, when there's a global tragedy or anything like that, and suddenly everything is raining, and I've said the same thing. Um, it's so interesting because to this day, our culture resists crying. I mean, people will say, like, what are you crying about or something. I mean, I grew up in a family that said that because I was, of course, very emotional as a child. And I was around all of these left brain men. And that was still happens to a lot of people that they're kind of bullied by their family if they cry or seem too tender. And yet we are the portals of light that feel what the collective is feeling. And so that idea of I'll just feel this. I won't try to label it, name it, create a story about it. I'll just allow myself to feel it and release it. It's very similar to something I learned from my body is that when I'm sick, I used to really resist it and say, I've got to be so strong. I've got to figure this out. I've got to figure out how to get well. I mean, even last year when I was diagnosed with a serious illness, at first I went into that kind of, oh, well, I've got to figure this out. And then I remembered that years and years ago, a beautiful friend had said, Sue, if you're going to throw up for God, throw up for the divine, don't fight it. And so, getting through my surgery and all my hospital stuff, a lot of crazy stuff happened that was painful and awful. And I would try to get back to that memory of, okay, I'm being nauseous for the divine. I am being nauseous for God. I am bleeding for the divine. I am bleeding for God. And when we resist, we make it worse. Everything here on earth, when we resist it, we make it worse.
Yes, yes. And I think, life is always working for us. I believe we are on life support. And I talk about those seven blessings as being alternative blessings. So those would be the kind of things like illness or an accident or a challenge or a divorce or all of these things that we want to think of as, oh, this bad thing is happening now. What do I do now? But they're not. They're actually trying to just pull away something from us that no longer works for the vibration we're headed to.
I
And I
totally
started
believe
to
that.
realize
Yes.
it's bigger than silver linings. Like these are like beautiful gifts to us if we will lean into them instead of fighting them. Then all of a sudden we'll find the gift.
And I believe now, looking back on my experience of the health crisis last year, it was an absolute blessing because the cancer part was the exact cancer my husband had died when I was 29, that I was still almost unconsciously holding on to trauma memories of his suffering, right? And so when I was diagnosed with colon cancer, at first my human self wanted to go, no, anything but this, no. And yet walking through it, the divine was showing me there's a different way to look at this. And I had a whole different experience than my husband Paul had. And it purged me of some old trauma that I had held on to for 40 something years without really being aware of it, even though I've gone to every healer, I meditate, I've done everything you're supposed to do. It was still in there. And this experience of walking through that illness and not resisting it, trying to find the light in it and all of that really brought me to this new level of rebirth, I would say, in my 70s, a rebirth, so that I could then the next year download those three angel books.
Yes, yes. And you know what I've come to realize for myself, and I come from a culture that believes in reincarnation, so this may not be something that everyone can ascribe to. But what I know is that my goal is to unify back with the great source that we all come from. I have known that from the time I was 4 years old. And I know that everything I do is with that aim, and that everything in life that happens to me must be towards that aim. And so when I've encountered these different moments of hardship in my life, and even the worst of them, what I realize is this must be a debt that I had to pay from a previous experience. And one day I was shown in a vision that the very experience I had gone through that felt so oppressive and so unjust, I had actually been the one in the previous life that created the oppression and created the injustice. And so this was my debt to even out the energy, to balance the scales, so that I could attain my greatest desire, which is moving towards that final point of union.
And I wonder if you can talk about how, I spent time in a Hindu ashram as well. And one of the things that bothered me was that gurus or teachers will often talk about that kind of karma experience in terms of punishment. I much prefer you talking about it in terms of repaying a debt to even out the energy. How do you feel those are different, the punishment versus balancing it out to connect with the energy?
Yes, I think a lot of people look at karma as, oh, God is punishing me, or
Right.
even that my own soul is punishing me.
Right.
But that's not accurate. We really are these souls that have come to learn and grow and continuously evolve. This really is an adventure theme park for us. We love the ups and downs. We love the crazy mirrors that contort us. We love all of it, right? I mean, we go pay for horror movies, right? We go
Right.
pay adventures that make our stomach go to our throat. So why wouldn't life be this amazing place that we get to do it for free? And so when it comes to these situations that take place, they are the things that we said, okay, I get what I did in this last life as I review, and to really understand with compassion what those people went through. It's necessary for me to go through it. That's the only way my soul can understand
Right.
what this experience was.
S-
And that's how I can repay the debt to who I've harmed.
And the thing is, I'm always saying that we have this great potential that we want to accomplish when we incarnate here on Earth, and that it's our free will as well, our free will and destiny all interplaying. So, if just using my life as an example, if I really came here wanting to ascend out of my negativity, my limitations I've had in past lives and really ascend to be a strong light here to help others, I would have to burn through the pain of the human story. And even if it came from past lifetime offenses, because I'm pretty sure in fact, I had a whole experience in soul regression that I was an Apache female warrior. So yes, I killed people, I know that that was part of past lifetime. And so in this life, I have had a lot of painful heartbreak. And I realized that not for my punishment, but for my evolution, I
Yes.
had to understand what that pain feels like of grief, loss, all of that to become a teacher healer here. Is that how you see that?
Yes. And I think that we've all been everything. I think we have all been the villain, we've been the victim, we've been the savior, we've been every gamut of experience that there is. Because truly, We're just one. We are the divine with many different faces and many different experiences, trying to balance this energy out. It's what we do with it. We're very easy to harp on the challenging experiences and go, oh my goodness, this must be bad karma. But how often do we say, wow, it was my good karma that got me X, Y, and Z. It's my good karma that I was able to make it through that. It was my good karma that I have a roof over my head or food in my mouth. There's a lot of good karma as well. So
Right.
again, it's what we do with it up here that makes all the difference in the world.
I also, feel that what you say about this life being the amusement park, I really believe that because in my downloads, I've gotten that in the higher realms, there's not all of this emotion, it's a beautiful unconditional love frequency and wisdom. And so in order to evolve, there has to be a certain kind of friction, we could say, or the thrill ride of the ups and downs. And so that we sign up to come here knowing it will be the roller coaster, knowing it's going to be the hall of mirrors, or the scary ride through the haunted house, all of that, because we'll come through that transformed. And so, how ridiculous it is that we get here and it's like, oh my God, this roller coaster is terrible. I hate this roller coaster. You signed up for this.
Well, I mean,
You bought the ticket.
humanity, humanity is really the reason that we're here. It's to experience the full expanse of humanity and to see the hero's journey, because through that journey we have gone through every emotion. And that is the whole point of this experience. And so I really caution people to not get so distracted by their electronics and their work and their AI and their many ways of distracting themselves, but be present to the feelings that are here, because that's your humanity. And it is our humanity that is going to save the planet, to save the species, to save our souls, to save this experience that we call, the Earth School. So,
Well, I
yeah.
just want to say, I don't think I've ever had a more profound conversation or a more profound mystical conversation with anyone. I have loved every single moment of this conversation with Simran. And if you don't know who she is, Simran, tell us how to find you.
Yes, I have two websites. IamSimran.com is where all of my books and things that I do would be. And then I have 1111mag.com, and that is where everything that I do for free is. So definitely connect with both of those. And if you want my weekly prompts and meditations, I have a Substack called Beyond the Illusion.
I tell you, you are one of the ascendant souls here on earth, and it is such an honor to know you and to have this conversation. So I'm thanking our listeners. I'm Rev Sue Frederick, and my website is suefrederick.com. I'm the author of the Angel Up trilogy, and I really invite you to join me for more of these amazing mystical conversations. And Simran, you're going to have to come back.
Anytime. Thank you for having me.
Thank you,
Really
sweetheart. Bye
been
bye.
an honor.